Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. This reporting that I have to share with you almost seems like something out of a fictional horror story, but it's 100% real. And this is what's going on right now in America under Donald Trump's so-called leadership. So a whistleblower named Dawn Wooten has come forward with accusations that people at a U.S. immigration center are just facing horrific conditions, and that women in this facility are being forced to undergo hysterectomies, and that the detainment facility is refusing to test the majority of detained immigrants for the COVID virus. She also alleges that the facility is transferring detainees in and out of the facility against the advice of the Center for Disease Control, and that some of the transferred detainees have the COVID virus. They've tested positive for it, or there are some who they've tested, but they didn't bother to wait for the results before transferring them to a different facility. So this is in complete violation of what the CDC has been calling for and saying that would be best practices. In addition, Wooten alleges that the number of COVID cases at the facility is being purposely underreported. So Wooten, who is a nurse, was working at this facility. It's the Irwin County Detention Center in Georgia, when she started to become aware of these unbelievable atrocities. I mean, these are seriously human rights violations. The fact that they're forcing women to undergo a hysterectomy, it is complete insanity. And she confirmed that many of the women had no idea why they were having the procedures. So the immigrants who confided in Wooten told her that some of the nurses couldn't even speak Spanish, so they obtained the women's consent for the procedures by, quote, Googling Spanish. So now several human rights advocacy groups have filed a complaint with the Office of the Inspector General for the Department of Homeland Security. The complaint provides details about several incidences of really terrifying events and what amounts to medical malpractice. So, for example, one woman was not properly anesthetized while the doctor was working on her, while he was performing a surgical procedure on her. So she could overhear what he was saying, and she heard him admit to a nurse that he had accidentally removed the wrong ovary. And because he then had to remove the correct ovary, she was left barren. She is now unable to conceive a child. Another woman said that she was scheduled to have a medical procedure, and when she questioned what it was all about, she was given 3 completely different excuses. So here's what it says in the complaint. Quote, she was originally told by the doctor that she had an ovarian cyst and was going to have a small 20-minute procedure done, drilling 3 small holes in her stomach to drain the cyst, according to the complaint. The officer who was transporting her to the hospital told her that she was receiving a hysterectomy to have her womb removed. When the hospital refused to operate on her because her COVID-19 test came back positive for antibodies, she was transferred back to ICDC, which is the detainment facility, where the ICDC nurse said that the procedure she was going to have done entailed dilating her vagina and scraping tissue off. But then there was even more. Another nurse told her that she was having the procedure due to her heavy menstrual bleeding. But this woman said that she never suffered from heavy bleeding. And when she tried to explain that to the nurse, she claims that the nurse became angry and started yelling at her. This is just outrageous. It is complete lunacy. So a group called Project South is one of the groups who issued the complaint, and they've spoken with multiple women who were subjected to these medical procedures. Apparently some were hysterectomies, some just had their one ovary removed. The victims were very confused about why they had to have the procedures, which again has left many of them unable to ever bear children again. And one of the detainees likened the treatment of the women to prisoners in concentration camps. One detainee told Project South that between October and December of 2019, she had spoken with 5 different women in the detention facility who had hysterectomies performed while they were being held at this Irwin Detention Center. She told Project South, quote, "When I met all these women who had had surgeries, I thought this was like an experimental concentration camp. It was like they're experimenting with our bodies." And when reporters spoke to the whistleblower, Dawn Wooten, she said, quote, "Everybody he sees has a hysterectomy. Just about everybody. Everybody's uterus cannot be bad." So yeah, this is one doctor. It's the same doctor that they keep sending these women to. And for some reason, he just wants to take out all of their uteruses. This is crazy, you guys. The complaint also talks about how the detainees have no masks to wear to protect them from COVID, and that the officers who come and go from the facilities also wear no masks. And there was a video that detainees made, and it went public, and women on the video were in this facility. They were talking about the horrible conditions, how unsafe it was. Well, once that went public, these women were punished. They had their phone and video chat privileges taken away, and some were even placed in solitary confinement, according to this complaint. So additional allegations in the complaint include the fact that there's no way for the women to socially distance because they're living in such tight quarters, and there are so many women packed into one room together. It's just virtually impossible. And there are also numerous claims about lack of cleaning supplies and a lack of medical assistance. One woman, for example, became very ill, and she had to be taken in for a medical evaluation because the facility apparently was short-staffed. So as a result, the woman didn't receive her medication for her diabetes, and she became ill. And then there were multiple reports about detainees who have tested positive for COVID, who were just placed in with general population rather than putting them into a quarantine unit as they're supposed to do. The complaint is also filled with additional details of just honestly egregious treatment and conditions. And what's clear, if you read through this, as I did, they're just dehumanizing these people. They're treating them as if they're less than human, as if they're lab rats. My question is, why hasn't the United Nations stepped in? If this was happening in another country, every other civilized country in the world would be calling for an investigation and for something to be done. They would be calling for sanctions to be placed on the country who's doing this, who's victimizing these people, who are literally performing unnecessary medical procedures on women, causing them to be barren for the rest of their lives. It's absolutely unbelievable. As I said in another video, every day I'm realizing more and more that I have to vote for Biden. This stuff is absolutely outrageous. It is unconscionable. It is a human rights violation. This stuff is insane. It needs to end. So if I hear anything more, guys, I will let you know. It's unreal that this is happening in the United States of America. As always, like, share, subscribe. I will talk to you guys soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to Plants and Politics. The only way we can take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again.